The monitor by my bed beeped slow and steady. A nurse's shoes squeaked somewhere down the hall. I had the TV on mute, not for peace but because I couldn't stand one more fake smile telling me everything was fine. The tablet sat on the tray table, just within reach. It still had fingerprints from the last time I used it, a week before the ambulance ride. I pulled it closer, tapping the banking app out of habit more than necessity. Incorrect password. The red letters flashed back at me. I tried again. Slower this time, deliberate. Still wrong. Third attempt. Blocked. A two-step verification screen I'd never seen before popped up. Enter code sent to your registered number. Only the number wasn't mine. I stared at that line like it was a sentence being carved into stone. The air felt heavier. Even the faint antiseptic smell in the room turned sharp, chemical invasive. I pressed the nurse call button without thinking. When she stepped in, cheerful smile ready, I cut her off. "Did you bring me the phone? The one my daughter left here?" She blinked, nodded, and left. When she came back, she set the phone down gently, as if the act itself needed cushioning. The moment she was gone, I unlocked it. The notifications stacked on the screen weren't mine either. Emails from my bank from accounts I never touched, all marked red. The last one, dated 3 days ago. Your password was successfully updated. If you did not make this change, please contact us immediately. My son-in-law's name was in the account recovery address. Not a guess. Not an assumption. It was right there. I could hear my own breathing now, slow and mechanical, like I was listening to someone else's lungs work. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Warren. I'm 63 years old. And this is what really happened. The first time I met Brandon, I thought he was overconfident, but I was willing to excuse it. Young men sometimes act like the world's already theirs. He wore expensive watches for a job that didn't pay much, smiled too easily and never broke eye contact, like he'd rehearsed the skill. My daughter Emily adored him. She called him ambitious. I called him careful with other people's money. But I kept my opinions to myself. 3 months ago, my heart decided it needed an unplanned vacation. One minute I was mowing the lawn, the next I was on the ground. Grass in my teeth, and a neighbor's voice calling 911. Hospital life has a way of stripping you of everything that feels normal. Your clothes get replaced with gowns. Your schedule is someone else's checklist. And your finances apparently become a free buffet for whoever gets there first. Brandon visited once, brought flowers, kept looking at his watch. Emily came more often, but she seemed distracted, always texting, always stepping outside to take calls. It was the third night when I realized my wallet wasn't in the drawer. I asked a nurse, thinking maybe they'd moved it for safety. She shook her head. "Nurse, your family took it when you were admitted, said they'd keep it secure." That same night I overheard them in the hallway. "Emily, he won't even notice until—" "Brandon, that's the point. We'll set it up now, and when he's out it'll look like it was always this way." They didn't know I was awake. They didn't know I'd already recognized the click of Brandon's voice when he was lying. The next morning, the bank confirmed it. Someone had been transferring money, small amounts at first, then bigger ones. The account was still active, but the recovery number and email were no longer mine. When I asked the banker to freeze the account, she hesitated. "Banker, sir, the activity is coming from someone listed as your financial proxy. It's legally authorized." My stomach turned cold. I'd never signed anything giving that right to anyone. Or so I thought, because an hour later a courier arrived at the hospital. Manila envelope, thick paper inside. And my signature clean, sharp, exactly like mine, at the bottom of a power of attorney form I had never seen before. The signature looked perfect. Too perfect. Every loop and slant matched my handwriting from decades of checks and forms. But it wasn't mine. I ran my thumb over the ink as if I'd feel the truth in the texture. The paper was smooth, heavy, official, like someone had taken the time to make it unchallengeable. The courier, a man in his 50s with silver hair and a corporate badge clipped to his belt, didn't even look me in the eye. He just left the envelope on the tray and walked out without a word. I stared at the document again. Power of attorney, immediate effect. It gave Brandon full authority over my financial accounts, property transactions, and even medical decisions. The date of signing, the day I collapsed on my lawn. The witnesses? One was a neighbor I barely knew. The other was Emily. The beeping from the heart monitor ticked up a notch. Not dangerous yet, just enough for the nurse to poke her head in. "Nurse, you all right in here?" "Is fine, just thinking." She lingered a moment scanning my face, then left. I folded the document back into the envelope, my mind circling one question. How far had they already gone? 3 days later, I was discharged. Emily drove me home in silence, her hands at 10 and 2 like she was on a test. Brandon wasn't there when we pulled into my driveway, which suited me fine. The house smelled wrong, not bad, just different, like someone had been living in it without me. A faint cologne that wasn't mine, a stack of unopened mail in the wrong place, the thermostat set higher than I ever kept it. Emily carried my bag inside. "Emily, we thought it'd be easier if we handled your bills while you were gone. That why the bank thinks you have power of attorney over me." She froze. A half second, but enough. "Emily, Dad, you were in the hospital. We didn't know how bad it'd get. Brandon said it was just a precaution." Precautions don't come with forged signatures." Her eyes narrowed. Not guilt. Not shame. Annoyance. "Emily, you're overreacting. We needed access to move some money around for repairs and..." "Repairs?" She looked away, and that's when I saw it. A brand new flat-screen TV in the living room, bigger than the wall could handle, and a stack of shipping boxes with high-end electronics still in their packaging. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from the hospital stiffness or the faint ache in my chest. It was the knowledge that my own blood had sided with a man who thought theft could be dressed up as responsibility. I sat in the kitchen, lights off, listening to the creak of the house settling, and then I heard it, the click of the front door unlocking. Brandon. He slipped in like he was entitled to the space. Didn't even notice me at the table until I spoke. "Hey, enjoying my bank account?" He didn't flinch. He just smirked, dropped a plastic bag of takeout on the counter and leaned on the doorway. "Brandon, we both know you can't handle finances right now. This way's cleaner. No mistakes." Cleaner for who?" "Brandon. For all of us. Look, you can fight it, but legally, you don't have much. Emily's on board. Paperwork's airtight. You push too hard, you're gonna lose more than just a little cash." The arrogance in his voice was almost worse than the theft itself. I didn't answer. Not yet, because I was already cataloging every word, every smirk, every casual shrug, knowing I'd use it all later. 2 weeks passed. I let them think I was resigned. I let Brandon play the role of benevolent caretaker while he drained more money for projects. But quietly, I started making calls. Not to the police. Not yet. To an old friend from my working days. Man who used to investigate financial crimes for the state. We met in a quiet corner of a diner, over burnt coffee and the hum of a neon sign. I slid the forged document across the table. He picked it up, scanned it, and gave a low whistle. "Friend, this is good work. Whoever did it's not an amateur. Can you prove it's fake?" "Friend. Better. I can prove who did it." 3 nights later, I got my proof. A thumb drive in a plain envelope. Video footage. Security cam from a notary's office. It showed Brandon signing my name with a practiced hand while Emily watched the door. The notary was one of Brandon's acquaintances, willing to look the other way for cash. The date stamp matched the day I was unconscious in a hospital bed. I replayed it twice, once to confirm it, once to burn the image into my mind. Then I called my friend again. Time to make a move. "Friend. Public or private?" I paused. The sound of Brandon's voice from that night in the kitchen echoed in my head. Public, because I wanted him to know that when you steal from a man who has nothing left to lose, you don't get to keep your dignity either. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Emily invited me to a family dinner at their house. Said it was to smooth things over. I agreed. And I brought someone with me. Not a lawyer, not the police, a bank manager, and a small black recorder tucked into my jacket pocket. Because if Brandon thought he'd already taken everything from me, he was about to learn there were things worth more than money. The smell of garlic bread hit me first when I stepped into their house. It was warm, staged, too perfect, like the kind of meal you make for a photo, not for family. Brandon was at the head of the table, wine glass in hand, wearing that smug half-smile that made my jaw tighten. Emily flitted between the kitchen and dining room, her voice higher than usual, too cheerful. "Emily, Dad, you made it. We were just about to start. Wouldn't miss it." The bank manager, Alan, stood just behind me, adjusting his tie, scanning the room like he was inspecting a crime scene. Brandon's smile faltered for a fraction of a second when he saw him. "Brandon, And who's this? An old friend. Thought I'd bring him along. Alan extended his hand. Brandon shook it, but his grip was loosed. Distracted. We sat. The clink of silverware on plates filled the first few minutes. I let them think I was here for a truce. I let Brandon talk about his business ventures, about how he and Emily were positioning the family for long-term stability. I waited until he took a sip of wine. "Alan, why don't you tell Brandon what you told me?" Alan set his fork down, leaning forward. "Alan, Mr. Warren's account activity over the last month shows unauthorized transfers totaling over $80,000. The account was accessed using credentials changed from a device registered to this address." Brandon froze mid-chew. "Brandon, that's ridiculous." "Alan, and there's more. The power of attorney document on file, submitted in person by you, Mr. Collins, witnessed by your wife. Video evidence confirmed." Emily's fork clattered against her plate. Her eyes darted to Brandon, then to me. Brandon laughed. Short. Forced. "Brandon, this is harassment. You bring some banker to my house and—" I reached into my jacket and placed the recorder on the table. Pressed play. His own voice spilled into the room. "You push too hard, you're gonna lose more than just a little cash." Emily's face went pale. The only sound was the faint hiss of the garlic bread cooling on the table. Brandon stood up so fast his chair scraped across the floor. "Brandon, get out." "I know. You're going to listen." I slid the manila envelope across the table, the same one the courier had brought me in the hospital. Next to it I placed the thumb drive. "Say, 2 copies. One stays with me, the other goes to the State Fraud Division tomorrow morning." Brandon's jaw flexed. "Brandon, you think this will scare me?" "I know. I think it will end you." Alan cleared his throat. "Alan, Mr. Collins, the bank has already flagged your accounts. Funds are frozen pending investigation. That includes your personal accounts and any joint accounts with Mrs. Collins." Emily's head snapped toward him. "Emily? Wait, what?" "Alan, standard procedure when fraud is suspected." Brandon's face darkened. "Brandon, you did this." I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because the sound of his phone buzzing on the counter said enough. The first alert from his bank app telling him the truth. I left them there, sitting in the tension I'd built. Alan followed me out to the car, locking the door behind us. "Alan, you sure you don't want to go straight to the police tonight?" "No, let him sweat. The worst punishment for a man like Brandon isn't prison. It's watching the walls close in while no one comes to save him." That night, I sat in my own living room for the first time in weeks. The smell of their cologne was still faint in the air, but it was fading. And for the first time since the hospital, I felt like I had control again. But control wasn't enough. Because what I didn't tell Alan, or anyone else, was that I'd found something in my bank records. A transfer. Not to Brandon's account. Not to Emily's. To a third party I didn't recognize. A business name. One I'd never heard before. I typed it into my computer, and the first search result made my stomach turn. It was a shell company, registered under my name. The next morning I drove to the address listed in the registration. It was a storage unit facility on the edge of town. Rows of orange doors baking under the late summer sun. The manager recognized me immediately. "Manager, you're here about Unit 43, right? Been paying cash every month like clockwork. Can I see it?" "Manager, sure thing. You got your key?" I shook my head. He shrugged, pulled a ring from his belt, and unlocked it. The metal door rattled up to reveal stacks. Boxes. Dozens of them. Flat-screen TVs. Power tools still in the box. High-end appliances. All purchased under my name, paid for with my accounts. And sitting on top of the nearest box, my passport. I didn't touch anything. Just stood there, the smell of cardboard and machine oil filling the space, the reality settling in. Brandon hadn't just stolen my money. He'd been building something. Something in my name that could get me arrested. I closed the door, the clang echoing in the still air, and knew exactly what I had to do next. Because now, it wasn't just about getting my money back. It was about making sure the man who tried to erase me couldn't walk away without losing everything he thought he owned. The storage unit's shadow still clung to me as I drove away. That smelled dusty cardboard, faint motor oil, and the sterile scent of plastic wrap. It sat in my throat like a warning. I didn't go home. Didn't call Alan. Didn't even think about telling Emily. Instead, I drove straight to my old friend Rick, the former state fraud investigator who'd already helped me once. He was on his porch when I pulled up, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. When he saw my face, he didn't bother with small talk. "Rick, you found something." Who could say that? I told him everything. The shell company, the storage unit, the mountain of stolen goods bought in my name. His jaw tightened with every detail. "Rick, that's not just theft. That's felony-level fraud, money laundering, and possibly identity theft. If those items get linked to a bigger operation, I go down with him." Rick nodded once. Slow. "Rick, then we burn him now." The plan wasn't fast. It wasn't loud. It was precise. Rick made a few calls, the kind of calls that get things moving without paperwork slowing them down. 2 days later, I stood outside the storage facility again, but this time I wasn't alone. A plainclothes officer leaned against his unmarked sedan, scanning the lot like a hawk. "Officer, you sure about this? Once we start, there's no taking it back." That's the point." We waited, and right on schedule, Brandon's black pickup pulled into the lot. He hopped out, key in hand, whistling like he was about to pick up a package. He didn't see me until I stepped out from behind the officer. "Brandon, what the hell is this?" "You tell me." The officer moved forward, badge flashing in the afternoon sun. "Officer, sir, we have a warrant to search Unit 43. Please step aside." Brandon's eyes darted between us, calculating, weighing his options. Then, slowly, he stepped back. The door rattled up. Sunlight spilled in. Every box, every stolen item, every receipt with my name printed in bold, it all sat there, undeniable. "Brandon, this isn't what it looks like." Rick's voice cut through the heat. "Rick, it looks exactly like what it is. They cataloged everything, photographed every box, seized every piece of evidence." Brandon stood there, jaw clenched, hands fisted at his sides while his little empire was dismantled in front of him. Emily showed up halfway through. Her face went white when she saw the officer. "Emily." "Brandon? What's happening?" "Brandon, don't say a word." I stepped closer. You should have thought about what you were doing when you put my name on all this. You were smart enough to forge my signature, stupid enough to think I wouldn't fight back." He didn't answer, didn't look at me, didn't even flinch when the officer read him his rights. By the time the sun dipped low, the storage unit was empty. The officer loaded the last box into the back of a van and turned to me. "Officer, we'll be in touch about testifying. This won't take long to prosecute." I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Brandon as they put him in the back of the squad car. For the first time, the smirk was gone. That night, Emily came to my house. No smile, no excuses. She stood in the doorway like a stranger, her hands twisting the strap of her purse. "Emily, Dad, I didn't know about the storage unit. You knew about the bank accounts." Her lips trembled. She didn't deny it. "Emily, I thought it was just temporary. Brandon said it was so we could cover bills while you recovered." I didn't know I didn't care to know. Her eyes filled, but I didn't soften. Because there are moments when a father's job isn't to protect his child, it's to make sure she understands the cost of the choices she's made. The next morning I woke to a call from Rick. "Rick? Got word from the Diaz office. They're moving quick, but there's something else you need to see." I met him at his office and he slid a folder across the desk. Inside were copies of Brandon's emails, pulled from his seized devices. One email stopped me cold. It was sent 2 days before I left the hospital. Subject line: "Final transfer." The recipient: an offshore account. The amount: every cent left in my retirement fund. I leaned back in the chair, the paper crackling in my hands. Can we get it back?" "Rick, if we move now, the bank's already flagged it, but the clock's ticking. If it clears, it's gone." The words barely left his mouth before I was on my feet, because I knew exactly where I needed to go, and exactly who I needed to confront. One last time before the final piece of this came crashing down. The air outside the Diaz office was heavy with the smell of hot asphalt. I didn't bother driving home. I drove straight to the county jail. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed over rows of bolted chairs. A thick pane of glass separated the visiting booths. And there he was, Brandon. His hair was flatter now, prison-issue clothes hanging loose on him. But that smirk was trying to make a comeback. "Brandon, didn't think you'd be the one to visit." "Guess I'm not here for small talk." He leaned forward, elbows on the steel counter. "Brandon, then what? To gloat? You think they can keep me here over some misunderstanding?" You drained my retirement. Offshore transfer. Final payment. Ring a bell? His jaw tightened. A flicker of something, not guilt but fear, crossed his face. Brandon, you can't prove. I slid the printed email up to the glass. His eyes flicked to it. Then away. Why? The bank froze it. The DA has everything. It's over. Brandon, you think you've won? You'll see, old man. People like me don't stay down. I leaned closer. My voice low, steady. People like you don't stay free. By the end of that week, the DA's office had filed multiple charges. Fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. Wire transfer violations. The offshore bank cooperated faster than I expected. Between Rick's contacts and Alan's documentation, my retirement funds came back. Every dollar. But the money wasn't what mattered. It was the silence. No more Brandon in my house. No more forged documents. No more pretending Emily didn't know what was happening. She came by once more before the trial. Stood in the same doorway as before, except this time she didn't bring excuses. Emily, I've been talking to a lawyer. They say if I testify against him I might avoid charges. I didn't answer right away. I just studied her. The way her hands trembled. The way her eyes couldn't hold mine for long. That's between you and the court, but you don't get to fix this with me in a witness box. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She nodded, turned, and walked away without another word. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury took less than 2 hours to convict. I sat in the back, watching Brandon's face as the verdict was read. No smirk now. No bravado. Just a man realizing the walls were permanent this time. The judge's gavel hit once, sharp and final. Brandon Collins, sentenced to 12 years. Months later I went back to the storage facility one last time. The unit was empty now, swept clean. The sun hit the concrete in long slants, dust motes drifting in the air. Rick stood beside me, hands in his pockets. Rick, feels like it's over. It is. At least for me. We walked out together, the metal door rolling down with a hollow clang. And I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not because I'd forgiven him, but because there was nothing left of him in my life to be angry at. Some betrayals never leave you. They live under your skin, in the quiet spaces of your day. But sometimes you can take them out by the root. Brandon thought changing my passwords meant locking me out of my own life. Instead, he opened a door he couldn't close. And the man who walked through it wasn't the same one who went into that hospital. I was quieter now, harder, but free. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments.